Good evening, people. It's me, Courtney. I'm back again with another video. I'm just here to very much talk about a chapter from my book, How to Survive in Babylon. Now, tonight, I'm going to very much talk about chapter 10, and it's called Your Colleagues Are Not Your Friends. Now, at work, in the workplace, right, we have to sort of understand, very much the dynamics of work. Not saying that you don't understand it, but just to make it a bit more clearer. Now, if you're going to work, right, thinking that your colleagues are your friend, and, I'm not saying that sometimes, some of us have gone to work and we've met people at work and sometimes we've become friends with them, right? And sometimes you may be friends with them maybe 2 years, 3 years later after you've left that work. And sometimes it does happen, and occasionally. But let's be honest, think about all the workplaces that you've worked at in your whole life. Just think about every workplace that you've worked at. Just try to get that in your brain first and just sort of hold that thought, right? So now that you've probably took time to think about all the workplaces that you worked at your whole life, did you really make like friends at the workplace, at every single workplace? Like, I'm talking about close friends that you can now probably call your brother or sister, like that type of friendship. I'm not talking about, this whole, oh, well, you're my friend now because I shared a few personal details. Right, you shared a few personal details about yourself. Now you start to think that, oh, this is your friend. Maybe you've been out with your colleagues a few times. Maybe you've gone out to a club. Maybe you've gone out on an outing, and maybe your colleagues are like, oh, we should all go out together and build a relationship with each other. And now you're probably mistaking that as thinking that these are your actually friends, when the reality is they're still your colleagues. You just happen to have gone out on an outing with your colleagues. That's very much what you've done. You've just gone outside of working hours and gone out somewhere, maybe had a bit of a bond outside of the workplace. Maybe you've got to kind of see a different side to them, right? And you've probably built, somewhat of a different, because remember, you're outside the workplace now, so this is a different type of connection. This is not where you're at work, talking about work stuff. You're outside the workplace, engaging in maybe having a drink. You've gone, maybe, you could have gone go-karts with them, you could have gone camping with them, you could have gone anywhere that's outside of the workplace. And now you're probably starting to think that, these are your friends, but they're very much still your colleagues. Because think about it. Think about all the workplaces that you've left, right? And you've gone and started a new job somewhere else. How much people at the workplace that you left did you keep in contact with? See, if you really believe these are your friends, just be honest. Think about all the workplaces that you've left, right? How many colleagues from your old workplaces do you remain contact with when you actually leave that workplace and move on somewhere else? Whether you're going to start a new job, or let's say you probably want to start a business and you're like, I'm going to start a business now, right? But when you've left all those workplaces, did you remain in contact with those colleagues when you left? And if you did remain in contact with them, how long did that contact last for until it fizzled out and they no longer hear from you no more? Right? Have you ever had a time where you've been at a workplace, the colleagues left, and maybe you've got their number, maybe, and people at work say, do you still speak to so and so? And you're like, oh, you know what? I haven't heard from him or her for a while. It's been a few months, and then you don't hear from them like again, because remember they've just left, so it's still very much fresh. But as a period of time, remember they've moved on, they've started a whole nother life somewhere else, far away, right? So this is what normally happens. But these colleagues are people that you call your friends. Yeah. Now, when you get a job and you sign a contract, it doesn't tell you that you have to make friends in the workplace, right? Because when you look at, say, the CEOs and the managers, and they're very much people that's in the highest of positions, they're not going to work to make friends. They're all about making their money, and they're all about the business, right? It's only the people that's very much at the bottom that have this idea of, oh yeah, this is my friend, right? The people at the top are not interested in making friends. They're interested about making money. They're interested in complete business. They only tell you to be, friendly to your colleagues. Not that you should be disrespectful, because, you all have to work together. But they've probably tried to sell that idea to you. Like, oh, you should, build a relationship with your colleagues, and maybe, you can go out with them outside the workplace and get to know them. But they sell that to you because they want to make sure that you and your colleagues have a relationship, so you and the rest of the employees can stay in that company and make that company money. Remember, the organization is about money, business, and they're not about nothing else. And they want to make sure that everybody is getting along in the workplace to make that company bigger, richer, right? While you're just an employee that can be replaced at any time. Do you see? So they sell that idea to you, but they themselves are not operating that way, right? The higher ups, whether it's the managers, right, whether it's the CEOs or the higher ups, they don't move in that manner. They're not running around trying to be friends with everybody in the workplace, because they understand that that's not what they're there for, right? So this whole, making friends in the workplace, it's not necessary. Right, I'm not saying you can't talk to people. I'm not saying that you can never make friends at the workplace, because it does happen, right? But in the true reality, before you worked in that workplace, you probably already got friends, right? For some of us, and we're not all of us, but some of us, you've got your friends already. You've already got friends already in your life, so you don't really need to go to work to make new ones. Do you see? So this whole idea of going to work and making friends, it's, again, I'm not saying you can't do it, but it's not necessary. It's not something that you have to do, right? As long as you're going to work, doing what you're supposed to do, right? You can work with your colleagues. You're a team player. You get the job done. That's very much it, right? And you carry yourself in a respectful manner, and you're respectful to your colleagues, and you get along and you get the job done. That's it. That's it. All this extra nuances of making friends in the workplace, it's just not necessary, because the owners of these organizations that you work for, they're not interested in making friends, right? So this is what I'm saying about how these ideas get sold in our minds, that we've got to be, we have to build these relationships with people at work, when the reality is a lot of people at work don't really care about being your friend, really. They're there for the same reason why you're there, to make money, right? So, I just want to sort of read as well a few sentences of this chapter. Chapter 10, your colleagues are not your friends. In the workplace, it's important to remember that your colleagues are not your friends. Some people mistakenly think they are, because over the years they've been invited to social events like going to the pub, attending a colleague's birthday party, or even going camping together. Engaging in fun activities outside of work can create a bond that feels more personal. So I understand why you may think of your colleagues as friends. And again, this is what I'm saying. You may form bonds outside of the workplace with your colleagues. So it can, you can sort of mistake that, thinking, oh, these are my friends. And maybe you've shared a few personal experiences with them, a few a little bit of personal information here and there, right? And then you're going to think, oh, well, these are my friends. But no, you've just indulged in very much a small, personal information, and that's very much all it is. But remember, your colleagues are just your colleagues. They are not your friends, right? And I'm not talking about, whether you've made a friend at work or not, that's fine. But for the most part, your colleagues are just your colleagues. And that's very much how they're going to remain. Because when you leave that workplace, 9 times out of 10, majority of the people at that workplace, you're not going to keep in contact with. So if that's what you call friends that you don't even speak to once you've left the workplace, then I don't know where we are in today's society. If that's what you call a friend, someone that you don't even call and talk to, then God knows, right? But your colleagues are just your colleagues, and just try to remember that, yeah? Your colleagues are not your friends. They're just your colleagues, and that's very much that's what they're going to be to you, whether you want to accept that or not. Yeah, because obviously I've given you an example. When you leave the workplace, how many of your colleagues do you really remain in contact with, if any? So just think about the concept before some of you say, oh yeah, but I've made friends at the workplace. Yeah, but how many? And how often are you making friends at every workplace that you've worked at? Right? Before you sort of get emotional and start, oh yeah, but I've made loads of friends at the workplace. I've made a friend here and there, but that's here and there. It's not every workplace you've worked at that you've made a ton of friends, because you know that the colleagues that you work with are not your friends. A lot of the time you're working with people that don't even share your ideals, that are just nothing like you at all. They're from a complete different walk of life, and there's nothing wrong with that. But, a lot of the time you're working around people that you're forced to work around. You're working in a forced environment. That's what the workplace is. You're forced to work with people, whether it's people that you don't even like, but you have to work with them because that's very much the ethos of the workplace. You've got to work together and get the job done, whether you like those people or not. So if you're working around people that you don't even like, that people that you don't even feel sometimes 100% comfortable around, how are you going to now tell me that these are your friends? You see, if you had a choice to work with those people, you probably wouldn't, but you're forced to. So now, how are you going to now challenge me and tell me that these are your friends? You see, when you know deep down, these are just your colleagues. That's all they are. Just your colleagues. And on that note, I'm going to end the video here, and I'm going to see you in the next video.